So I think we're set to start. I think we have enough quorum here. So I will welcome everyone to the January 15th, 2020 meeting of the Commission on Disability Issues. And first of all, before we begin with roll call, I'd like to take a moment and wish everyone a Happy New Year for 2020. I hope that all of you had a great new year, and I look forward to working with all of you in this new year. So next, I'd like to start with the roll call. So I will start to my left with Commissioner Tim Hall, and then go around.
Here, Tim Hall, Commissioner.
Larry Keeler, Commissioner.
Elizabeth Nelson, City Council Liaison.
All right, I am Zach Damon. I am the chairman of the commission.
Matthew Solomon, Commissioner.
Rachel Hawkins, Commissioner.
Sally Peterson, Vice Chair.
Alex Gossage, Commissioner.
Corey Ferris, Staff Liaison.
Wonderful. Welcome, everyone, and thank you for being here on this wonderful day that doesn't have any snow. Interesting. Next, we have the approval of the agenda. So I'd like to just notify everyone right now that we do have copies of the revised agenda for today's meeting. If you did not receive one electronically and would like one in person for today's meeting, please let us know and we can get you a copy. Thank you, Corey. And if you do have one, I'd like to encourage everyone to just take a couple of minutes to review that. And if there are any corrections or revisions, please let us know at this time. All right. Corey, I just had a quick point for the agenda really quick. Unfortunately, I did not get around to contacting John or Jackie to present for the ADA coordinator. Now, I didn't know if we wanted to just strike that from today's agenda or if it was in the appropriate method to just sort of skip over that. But are all of you okay with sort of not having that in the agenda today? But then I will reach out to John and Jackie come our next meeting next month so that they can be aware that we'd like them to present. Are you guys okay with that?
I think the procedure is to just table it, and then you
Okay.
can just revisit it at whatever point.
Okay, no problem. So then, thank you. So what I'd like to do then is just table that, Corey. And then once I have reached out to John, Jackie, just to confirm that they're able to present, then we can continue with that on the agenda. But I like how that looks, and hopefully that can be something standing in the agenda. All right. And then, is there anything else that we have?
Are you moving to amend or?
Yes, I'm moving to amend that from the agenda today. Is there anyone that would like to second that?
I'll second that.
All right, Sally seconds. All in favor of amending the ADA coordinator presentation from today's agenda, say aye. All right, great. So that is amended from today's agenda. Great. All right, is there anything else from today's agenda that needed to be corrected or amended? Not at this time. All right, is there a motion to approve the corrected agenda?
I'll move to approve.
All right, Larry will move to approve. All in favor of approving today's agenda? Aye.
Aye.
Okay. All right. Next, we have the approval of the December 18th, 2019 meeting minutes. Again, these were sent out electronically. If you did not get a copy or have not reviewed them and are present, please let us know and we can get you a copy at this time. But I'd like to take a couple of minutes just to review those. If there are corrections, please let us know and we can get them corrected.
Small correction to page 2. The spelling of my name is Solomon, and I also just want to offer the comment that I appreciate the more robust recording that took place at the last meeting. I think it's very helpful to have a slightly more detailed set of minutes to work from.
Yes, and I second that, Matthew. Thank you to Corey and everyone for working on that.
Much appreciated.
All right, anything else other than the spelling on page 2? All right. Is there a motion to approve the December 18th meeting minutes?
So moved.
All right.
Second.
Okay, seconded by Sally. All in favor of approving the December 18th meeting minutes, say aye.
Aye.
All right, the meeting minutes are now approved. Wonderful. So now we move to the presentations portion of today's meeting. We have Katie Monkevich with the Washtenaw Library for Blind and Physically Disabled. Welcome, Katie.
Thank you. Hello. Going to pass out our January event brochure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, so I got a couple things to talk about today, some upcoming events at the library. We've got Martin Luther King Jr. Day coming up, and on that day, we're going to have a conversation with Veterans for Peace. That's going to be on Monday, January 20th, from 7 to 8:30 p.m. in the downtown library in our multipurpose room. Before Dr. King's tragic death, he spoke out more and more against war as part of the giant triplets of racism, militarism, and economic exploitation, even though some criticized him for doing so. Even now, on Martin Luther King Day, when Dr. King is quoted widely, it is uncommon to hear his thoughts on war. The local chapter of Veterans for Peace will discuss Dr. King's speeches relating to war and militarism, showing that they are as relevant today as they were nearly 50 years ago. Then the following day, on January 21st, from 6:30 p.m. to 8:30 p.m., we'll be meeting in the Downtown Library's Secret Lab for a sound walk in winter. We'd like you to join us for a listening of downtown Ann Arbor with a guided sound walk. It's a unique opportunity to listen and experience our sound environment in a very different way. We're going to open our ears to every sound around us and become more aware of the soundscape that we live in. Participants will learn the concepts of the sound walk and different ways to explore a sonic environment. Part of this program involves a walk outside, so please dress accordingly. This program is going to be presented by Dr. Zeynep Ozcan, a sonic artist, singer, and author. She holds a PhD in music, an MA in history of architecture, and a BA in philosophy. Her works have been performed and presented throughout the world in concerts, exhibitions, and conferences. Her work focuses on the design and composition of interactive virtual sound environments and the applications of animal behavior to sound art works. The next thing that I want to talk about is happening twice later this month. We're opening up our secret lab into a co-working space. So we're calling this co-working the not-so-secret lab. So we'll be meeting in the secret lab on Wednesday, January 22nd and Wednesday, January 29th. Oh, I guess the 22nd is 12 to 3. The 29th will be 11 to 2. They're both Wednesdays, though. So we're meeting in the secret lab. The secret lab is going to be just completely open for people to come and go as they please as a co-working space. Individuals or small groups who need an inviting space to meet and work are welcome to utilize the space and the high-speed wireless internet. And as somebody who works at the downtown library almost every day, I can tell you it's a really nice place to work and the wireless is really good. So if that is useful to you, we hope to see you then. I've got a couple books that I discovered this month that I brought along. The first one is called Brave Love, Making Space for You to Be You by Lisa Leonard. She's a jewelry designer and inspirational speaker, And in this book, she shares her journey of attempting to be the perfect woman and its impact on her mental health and relationships. She discusses her marriage, raising a son with disabilities, and managing her career. The next one is called About Us, Essays from the Disability Series of the New York Times. These are 61 essays originally published as part of the New York Times Disability column. The essays are organized in the topics of justice, belonging, working, navigating, coping, love, family, and joy. Essayists have physical, motor, sensory, and cognitive differences. And then the very last one is called Accessible America, A History of Disability and Design by Bess Williamson. This is a history of design in the United States that provides increased accessibility for those with physical, sensory, and cognitive disabilities. It also discusses the individuals and events that propelled the civil rights movement, leading to the Architectural Barriers Act and the Americans with Disabilities Act. And as always, we'd encourage you to contact the Washtenaw Library for the Blind and Physically Disabled at the Ann Arbor District Library through email, which is wlbpd@aadl.org, by phone at 734-327-4224, and you can visit us at our website at wlbpd.aadl.org. Any questions today? Yeah.
So, awesome. Accessible America, I just wanted to clarify the author, Bess Williams, is that correct?
Bess Williamson.
Williamson, okay. And then what year was that published?
I think it came out this year.
It just came out.
Yeah.
Oh, did it?
These are brand new books that I brought
Great.
today.
Wow.
Yep, and 2019, and they're new, but they're also all available on Bard, so
Okay.
they're already recorded and ready to go.
Awesome. Thank you.
Anybody else? All right,
All
thanks
right.
a lot for
Thank
having
you,
me.
Katie.
Thank you.
Wonderful. All right, next we have Alex Gossage, the Executive Director for the Ann Arbor Center for Independent Living and fellow Commissioner.
Good afternoon, everybody. Things continue to stay busy at the CIL. We continue to have our art group happening on Mondays, Thursdays, and Fridays from 1 o'clock to 3 o'clock. That is an open art session for anybody to come. On Wednesday evenings from 6 to 8, we have our Diversibility Theater group, which meets each week and includes dinner and opportunities for different acting-related activities and performances. In addition to that, we do have a new group that is meeting here soon. I want to make sure to bring it up. It's a writing program that we are doing in partnership with 826 Michigan, Eastern Michigan University, and the Ypsi District Library. It's called The Right Stuff, where creativity and accessibility meet. That program is going to be on Saturdays from 11 to 12 on February 15th, 22nd, as well as March 7th, 14th, and 21st. And that will be meeting at the Ypsilanti District Library on Michigan Avenue branch. That's an exciting new program that we have been working on and working to develop and hoping to see that go forward. I know there's been a lot of interest in folks becoming involved in different writing programs. In addition to that, in about 15 minutes, there will be a new dance and motion group that's going to be starting at 4:30 today, going till 5:15, and that'll be meeting weekly, weather permitting. And in addition to that, we just have a lot of our other general activities going on. I do want to remind everybody that winter is upon us, and so just as a reminder, when Ann Arbor Public Schools are closed for inclement weather, the CIL is closed until 12 o'clock. So I advise everybody to look up all the different activities that are going on our website at www.annarborcil.org. You can also call us at 734-971-0277. And you're also always welcome to come to the CIL when the weather is cooperating with us at 3941 Research Park Drive. So that's it today. Thanks.
Thank you, Alex. And I must say, at Diversibility Theater, they make some great food over there. So if you guys are hungry but also like performing and acting, definitely check out Diversibility Theater. And thank you, Alex, and all the staff for making CIL a home away from home. So, all right. Next, we have public comment. And, of course, I don't see any public for comment this afternoon. So we'll go ahead and move forward. All right, next, under old business, we have the HB 4738 crosswalk law. And I wanted to know if any of us had had an opportunity during the break before the new year to review any of that, and if anyone had any feedback for the commission at this time. I did have an opportunity to review it briefly, and my feedback was that yes, the language indeed needs to be changed or amended, if you will, to be able to incorporate those with a physical impairment. Because again, as we talked about, if they do not have, a cane and they're not able to signal to other drivers going across the sidewalk, or the crosswalk rather, excuse me, then that does create a dangerous situation. So I didn't know if any of you had had an opportunity to review the language within that and had any suggestions. If you do not have any at this time, that's fine. But I wanted to open it to discussion, and then I have one more point on a survey, but I'll talk about that during the chair report. Go ahead, Sal.
Hi, just a point of follow-up. You were going to look into getting some of the crash data for the last 10 years? Did you
Yeah,
have
that's
any luck
correct.
with that?
Yeah, I do not have that yet. I will plan to have that on the next meeting.
Okay.
Yep. All right. Tim?
Yeah, so I've looked at this quite a bit. I actually sent to you, Zach, and Sally, I sent something which was essentially what I spoke about at City Council when they talked about endorsing this law. And my main concerns that, number one, that this only says that drivers have to yield to pedestrians that are in the crosswalk, and it does, and crosswalk seems to only mean the road in this case.
Yeah.
And the idea that perhaps if we were to consider this should be expanded, the definition of crosswalk to include the curbs, and the other thing that I was thinking that perhaps, the other issue would be that this does not allow for a stricter crosswalk law, like as is. It doesn't explicitly say you can't have one, but in general, the attitude of courts is such when you have cases like this is that state law takes precedence.
Right.
And that's another thing. I mean, in the end, that defeats the purpose of it being uniform, but at the same point, it would make it less concerning to have a weaker standard. But I guess it kind of depends which direction you want to go there. But I had brought up that and the thing about the current law. And another thing that you were mentioning as far as mobility impairments, I know there was some discussion about the white cane law, and that was supposed to come to us at some point.
Yeah.
But apparently hasn't. And I know that's another thing because the proposal was to move that, it was from the vehicle code to the traffic code or vice versa, but one of them is actually state law and the other is just some kind of guidelines that cities adopt. But the idea was to move it into the actual state law.
Right.
I know that the Transportation Commission is going to take this up and make some possible recommendations tonight at
Okay.
the meeting, but
Okay.
I have a comment.
Sure.
I know that we have a consultant who's coming in and giving advice about, I can't remember what exactly the consulting contract is on, but it's a larger contract, and Councilmember Griswold has asked that, because their expertise is in pedestrian safety, that consultant review the state of our crosswalks, because I know that she's really focused on trying to make sure that our crosswalks, regardless of what the wording of the law is, they're positioned in a way and they're set up in a way with the right lighting and infrastructure and without visibility concerns, just at any rate. I'm hoping that she's successful in her efforts to get a real professional expert assessment of what exactly have we done in all the zebra stripes that we've painted across roads. Because it's one of the things that I hear about almost more than any other issue, is somebody telling me either that a light is out, or there's a crosswalk that needs a signal, or I'm constantly waiting here for cars to stop because it's just not happening.
Right.
So hopefully we'll be moving forward in getting a little bit better data on how we can make our crosswalks better. Like I said, regardless of what the technical wording is and technicalities of the law.
Right. When is that meeting? Is she?
I just saw a memo that came from our city administrator about the cost of the consultant. There's some sort of miscommunication.
Okay.
The question was about getting Sam Schwartz, I think is his name. Is that right? The first name? I know it's Schwartz.
Okay.
Councilmember Griswold's intent was, because this person's specialty is in pedestrian safety, was to
Right.
have him assess our crosswalks. And I guess that has morphed into having him assess our org chart and our employee staffing within City Hall. And so I think there's still a little bit of a wrestle match about what exactly she was asking for and what exactly we were hoping to get from this consultant.
Okay, are they gonna present that data to you at some point?
I hope so. Well, like I said, they're still not agreeing on what data we're asking for.
Okay,
Kathy and I have talked about, like, yes, it makes perfectly logical sense for us to utilize this person's
Yeah,
expertise and have
yeah.
them look at our crosswalks and say, like, you have so many of this type in the
Right.
middle of a block, and this is how you need to upgrade them to make them more effective or safe. That we're still working to get that as a question.
Understood. The only reason I was asking, Elizabeth, because once you guys are able to at least get that information at some point, I'd be interested to take a look at that data, because that would also go along with the data that I'm trying to collect for also the crash data in terms of.
A few minutes ago, while we were talking, I had just emailed Kathy to ask about that, because that would be something that, if anybody had it in a file folder somewhere, Kathy
Yeah.
would. Like anybody in the universe, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, one of the things, and I guess I've noticed this because I've just moved downtown and I'm using a lot more crosswalks than I used to, but it seems to me there's driver confusion about the pedestrian crossing ordinance, and that my interpretation of it is relevant to mid-block crosswalks, not intersections, whether they're lighted or not. Is that correct?
I don't know. I honestly do not know.
I think it's
You're asking the wrong
mid-block
person.
only as far as the language goes.
Okay.
But what I have found, ironically, is that, for example, I've had ambulances not stop, not in use ambulances, but I've had at mid-block crosswalks even, this week, a ride doesn't stop.
Really?
Huron Valley Ambulance doesn't stop.
Kathy has told me that every intersection, whether it's painted with a zebra or not, every intersection is inherently a crosswalk.
Okay.
Right, but the pedestrian crossing ordinance.
About
where
stopping,
cars-
that
about
only applies to the
stopping
mid-block?
Only applies to mid-block. Now, I've had
Oh.
people not stop at mid-block and then stopped that wasn't mid-block. So, I think there's still confusion out there.
Well, and for those that don't know mid-block, can you clarify what that means?
It means it's not at a four-way intersection,
Okay.
and that and I don't know if a three-way intersection, it's mid-block on one side, but not on the other.
Okay.
So again, I think there's some confusion on what a mid-block crosswalk is.
Okay.
So,
Well, and this is where I think it would be exciting to have a conversation about just how we're strategically placing these crosswalks. Like, I have noted in a few public meetings that I've gone to about road improvements in Ward 4, like the one I'm thinking of is on Scioto Church. They added a crosswalk, and they staggered it away from an intersection with a side street. And the staff were right there, and so I was asking, like, why would you do that? Why would you stagger it 15 feet away? Isn't it
Right.
better to have
do
it
it
more?
at the intersection.
And they were positioning it relative to a streetlight. Yeah, so I think an expert would have something more to say than me just sort of thinking in my own sense of it, like, these are conversations that would be valuable to have, like,
Yeah.
because the data's there, somebody's taking data,
Sure.
so.
Well, and again, I will be getting the data as far as the crash data and things like that to evaluate and then send it to us. But again, when that other data is present, hopefully, we can have access to that as well. Anything else on the crosswalk law at this time? The biggest thing that I hope that I can do, which I was hoping to do before the new year, but once I get that data, I'll make sure that I forward it to all of us so that we can take a look, to be able to kind of assess it and break it down. And then from there, just kind of be able to find out where we want to go forward. Because again, I think it's important and it affects all of us in the city and everyone that lives downtown as well. So I will send that along. Go ahead, Tim.
So what I'm hearing is it seems like some people have concerns about the current law and its effectiveness, and that's why you're talking about all this data and stuff, though there is also the concern of this state law, is this the right thing? And I feel like at some point, I mean, I know that the Transportation Commission was going to take a stance on this state law, and I feel like there are some obvious flaws in the state law, regardless of whether the current law in the city is perfect or not. And I'm wondering, were we going to think about perhaps putting together a statement on that? I mean, obviously, it might be hard to do at the table right now, but, I mean...
That's a good question, Tim. I personally would like us to consider putting something together as far as a statement, just so that we can, be informed and know that we have at least looked at the situation and looked at the issue at hand, so that we can at least have it addressed and that we can, continue to move forward with this.
Another question of clarification?
Sure.
Isn't HB 44738 the intent of that, to make our local law the state law? Or are there differences between that law and the way our pedestrian crossing ordinance is written?
There's significant differences between
Okay.
HB 4738 and our current law. I mean, the main one being that it only says them stop in a crosswalk and doesn't specify anything about the curb or anything.
I thought that was already the state law.
Well, there is something in the, what is it, the like motor vehicle code, I think it's called, or it's like the uniform traffic code, but that is not actually a state law. That is essentially a guideline that each individual city can adopt. And the idea is they're actually going to put something in the state law so as to be uniform, but at the same point that would likely override our current ordinance.
So I guess we would have to take a look at both of these.
Yeah.
And then, sort of figure out which would be the best to adopt or support in order to get clarification. So with that, do you guys, because I've sent along the HB 4738, but do you also want me then to send this other crosswalk law?
Well, it's our local ordinance, we can,
Okay,
it's pretty accessible.
okay. But yeah, I encourage you guys to take a look at both of those, the 4738 as well as the local crosswalk ordinance, so we can know, again, the difference and get clarification. And then I will send out that crash data as well. All right, anything else on that, or can we move forward? All right. So moving forward, we have the city personnel report from Corey Ferris.
No update at this time, but like Zach said, we wish you all a happy new year.
All right, thank you, Corey. All right, next we have the chair report, so let me bring that up here. All right, so just wanted to bring up, first of all, Corey, I appreciate you looking into this, speaking of Corey Ferris. So I wanted to bring this up to the commission because it was talked about briefly before the New Year break, but I wasn't sure exactly of the bylaw of this, but Corey, thank you for sending this along. So we did have a couple of commissioners, which I will not name, but we did have a couple of commissioners that have missed frequent meetings or have not been present. And of course, we have a full commission right now. But as we've talked about before, we have more than enough applications as well for commissioner seats. And so it's my opinion that if these particular commissioners have missed significant time and have missed significant meetings and have not necessarily been making a contribution, that we consider moving in a direction of where they are either no longer on a subcommittee or on the commission, or we can reach out to them and see if they can be more present, only because we have other applications out there that are sitting there, and I'm sure that those other individuals would be more than happy to sit on the commission. So, Corey, do you remember what the bylaw states by chance?
Yeah, let me pull it up.
Okay.
I didn't bring my Braille copy.
I think it's 3 missed meetings in a row without
Without notification.
notification.
All right, 3 missed meetings without notification. Let's see. It says there was one commissioner, I think, that was absent 5 times, and then another one. I mean, we understood that they couldn't make regular meetings when they were accepted in, but they were still encouraged to be present when able, but apparently they've been absent about 10. So,
Can
go ahead.
Just, I think the latter individual, I think someone told me after the last meeting, or someone brought it up, that that person might have not intended to become a commissioner. They just wanted to be on a committee
Oh,
to understand. So for whatever reason, that person may not understand the responsibilities of a
Right.
commissioner.
okay.
But I think in either case, per your memo, a message from UZAC asking them if they wish to resign before we take the first step. I think the first step should be they being able to resign.
Okay.
And in the latter case of the individual who may or may not understand the
Right.
appointment process.
I guess
Okay.
I'd like to encourage, in case this is probably clear already, but to not maybe frame things in terms of a resignation, but an inquiry as to, absences. And, we are grateful for the service of our commissioners. And if things have changed, that I wouldn't want to frame it in legalistic terms, citing, 3 absences, et cetera. I would really want to frame it in the most collegial possible terms.
Sure.
As an inquiry,
Yeah.
So I don't want this to get framed as a kind of punitive action.
Right.
I agree with what Matthew had to say. I think also it's a matter of us learning if there are any barriers to them being present, either transportation or anything else that we can assist with to help find them the resources they need to get here. So that could be another factor in some cases.
Okay.
And that's in
go
fact
ahead.
part of our charge, and to frame it in that way, I think is much more constructive.
Larry, that's a question over
Definitely agree. Larry, you have a comment?
I do think, however, that if you, when you apply and you sign up to be a commissioner, you get the expectations that you're gonna have this once a month, and you ought to take it as a fairly serious thing. I mean, and try to make and if you don't do that, there's gotta be something done, because you don't want somebody to sit on here for 3 meetings of the year and not know what's going on. You need to take responsibility, and I don't know, we've been letting people off kind of easy. Oh, yeah, it's not a problem. We gotta say something.
Yeah, I mean, I think all of you bring up great points. And to sum that up, what I'll do, Sally, is I will reach out to both of them. I'll send a very diplomatic inquiry in terms of, what things can be done in order to ensure that their presence is made. Or if they're not able to, then we can move forward with that. But I'll also make sure, Sally, that you're CC'd on those
there.
correspondence as well.
Yeah, thanks.
All right. And thank you, Corey, for bringing that to our attention. I appreciate that. All right. Let's see. Next. All right. So, former commissioner, Amy Shepherd. I don't know. There's some of you that may know her name.
I do.
Oh, yeah, and
Good.
some of you may not. But she's a former commissioner and does a lot with the community. But she sent along a survey. talking about mid-section crosswalks. And it allows you to make comments regarding the existing crosswalks as well. So I did receive that, and what I'm going to do after this meeting is also forward that to all of you. But,
No,
go
Zach,
ahead.
Should have already gotten it.
Oh, okay.
Zach, I got that, but the question is she sending that as herself or for a part of an organization, do you know?
That's a good question. I
It's from
believe,
the city, I think. I
Yeah,
got
it's
it
a city
already from
survey.
the city. It's a city
I know I
survey.
got it from
Okay.
her, but.
okay. So then Sally, that answers the question. So,
I'm pretty sure that's the one she's sending.
okay, so it's a city survey, and yeah,
I think
apparently.
you have to be on the city, you opt into the city distribution list.
Okay.
And then you automatically get it.
Okay, good to know. So I just hope that all of us can take a moment to participate in that and give our feedback. If you guys are so willing, I think it's, again, something that could be beneficial and sort of help with feedback of the crosswalks. So I just wanted to let you all know of that. And now that I know that all of us should have received that, if you have not, let me know and I can forward that to you. All right. That is all I have for the chair report at this time. Next, we'll move forward to the Community Engagement Committee and Ann Arbor Inclusive. Rachel Hawkins.
Thank you. So right now, we have our next upcoming episode of Ann Arbor Inclusive, and it will be this Friday at 4:30. They will be talking with the Autism Alliance of Michigan, and that will be on Channel 19 on the local TV. And then afterwards, those will be posted to the Ann Arbor Inclusive YouTube page if you would like to look it up and you happen to miss it.
Awesome. Thank you very much. And thank you,
Thank you.
Rachel, Tom, and Linda, and everyone at Ann Arbor Inclusive for doing a great job. All right. Next, we have the Partners in Access Committee, Mr. Larry Keeler.
We got the agenda set up. I forgot the dates, but I'll contact the people involved, anybody who wants to be on that committee. I think it's either the first or second Wednesday in February. I can't remember right off my head right now. It's on my computer. But I'll have an agenda, a rough agenda drawn up by then, and we'll get started.
Awesome.
I know there's at least one person, so if anyone else wants to be part of that committee, let me know, and I'll forward the information.
Sounds good. And Larry, I just want to thank you, too, for your willingness to take up the Partners in Access Committee and lead that. So thank you very much. All right. Well, we're going to stick with you, Larry, because we are now in recruiting activity.
It's all right, I did nothing. Did nothing. It was the holidays, did nothing. Got a full commission, hadn't seen any applicants yet, any more applications, hadn't heard of anything coming through or anything, and I'll check that out.
Okay, and just one inquiry to you and maybe Elizabeth. Did we ever figure out why, like, you guys were able to see more and then we were only able to see a few applicants?
I mean, I think the answer that we got was the distinction between seats that are designated for somebody with a disability and the application. I guess the short answer is we didn't ever really get a clear answer. But now that I'm sort of more actively in the loop, I mean, honestly, every time I've been in a meeting where Larry was asked about recruiting, I thought, that I'm not mixed up in that. And then well, anyway, I'm glad that we understand now that
Sure.
my access to the database is quite useful and helpful, and
Oh, it's
Larry and
very
I
helpful.
Larry and I can connect. I think this is a good step forward, and I feel badly for not connecting the dots sooner.
No problem.
In fact, weren't we supposed to connect anyway?
Yes, we were. So anyway, I noticed in the minutes of the last meeting that I'm listed in there as meeting with you this month, which I guess you decided when I was absent. So I guess we'll have to meet this month.
We'll have to meet this month.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, thank you both for that clarification.
Maybe
And
Thursday.
I'm glad that was at least able to sort of come out, and hopefully you guys are on the same page.
And I think with your access, Elizabeth, and the fact of what I need to know, I think we can do this a lot quicker.
Oh,
And
definitely.
it'll be a lot easier to do.
Yes. It will be a lot easier.
All right, and of course, that moves on to the point of improving communication between city and the commission regarding prospective new commissioners. So we kind of know that bridge now, in terms of Elizabeth, Larry, and how you guys are communicating, so.
Yeah, and I mentioned before the meeting that I actually am going to be bringing forward a policy that would apply to all boards and commissions that have a council liaison, so that we can sort of just have a system in place where a designated commissioner like Larry can coordinate with a council liaison, and, because it would just be a lot faster. And
Right.
it strikes me also that those of us who are sitting on this table have a pretty clear idea about what the commission does, and we're in a better position to sort of look through these applications and try to figure out somebody who might be a good fit to make recommendations.
A
Right.
few years ago, at one point, we sometimes, occasionally, when we, and this is the process I think I want to work on too, is we occasionally, we didn't exactly interview, we would sort of interview some of the applicants if they wanted. We'd like, you know, go down and have a cup of coffee or something like that and say, hey, how are you doing, you know? What makes you want to be a commissioner? If there's an opening, well, yeah. And I want to, because I don't know I guess the next thing we were supposed to meet about, Elizabeth, is how to get in touch, should we get in touch with these people and how we should do it. And I'm not exactly clear if we can or what we can and can't do as far as getting in touch with these people that have been on, or the new applicants and saying, hey, this is what the commission's about. If you want to see you applied, this is what it's about.
That's an interesting question. Zach, do you know, like, the protocol for that?
Yeah.
In terms of figuring out the communication, you know, I don't, but I can look into that.
Different chair people had did different things. I worked with different chair people, and some of them would, you know, if they could, they'd have a say, hey, meet us down for a cup of coffee, or go talk to them somewhere, or find out what their interest was. I was actually invited to come to a couple meetings.
Okay. Sally, you've had experience with that. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, I remember understanding very clearly that it is the mayor who nominates and and it's the council that appoints. To the extent that we would get wind of someone whose name is coming forward, we would not necessarily know, but I think we've always been open as a commission and willing to meet with anyone to share what our experiences are. So someone can apply without being nominated by the mayor, and once it's on the mayor's radar screen, if the mayor wants to nominate that person. So there's that step before it comes, you know, we don't really necessarily get to weigh in on who comes to the commission, because it comes through the mayor's office and then through council.
right.
Well, and, I mean, this is actually the change that I'm proposing, is
Okay.
that it wouldn't take away quite literally, the mayor has discretion to choose whoever he likes.
Right.
But when I looked into the bylaws of other commissions, there is some variation in how the preliminary steps they have moving forward. And when we recently set up a new one, we set up the Police Oversight Commission, there was significant discussion about how the applicants would move forward. Would they be recommended by the HRC?
Okay.
And so this is a conversation that's been had before, the idea of having one person who's picking people at his own discretion and, you know, with the input of whoever he chooses to accept input from. My idea was to sort of formalize it and have input formally come from the commission below, and, you know, he can do what he wants, but the idea is that our voice would be there.
Right. Well, and I think, you know, you bring up some great points. I think, you know, revision may be needed so that, you know, the process itself can be as fair as possible. Larry, you had a comment?
Yeah, my other my basic comment went sort of along with Elizabeth's comment, is that, you know, the way it was for a while, we wouldn't know, I wouldn't know who was going to actually be appointed unless I actually asked, and there were at least one or two that I might have, in the interest of gatekeeping, kind of said, asked for the input on, but I didn't get it, and in the case of at least one of them, they were nominated and basically never showed up. And the thing is, I knew they wouldn't to begin with, and if I had known they were up for a commissioner, nah, that's not a good fit. And I think that's what we want to have. I don't want a surprise from the mayor's office, all of a sudden somebody able to come in here and we not be familiar with who they are at all.
Right. I mean, I agree with that. I think communication is key in selecting good commissioners. And so I agree with you both. I agree with you, Larry, as well as Elizabeth, that, you know, it's good to be able to, again, revise how that process is going to be moving forward. So,
I'll go home and refresh myself with the bylaws too.
What's that, Larry? Could you
I'll
repeat
go
that?
home and refresh myself with the bylaws too, because I kind of want to know what we can and can't do.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think that's important as well. All right. Alrighty. Is there anything else on that, or we can move forward? I'd like to move forward to the Transportation Commission update with Mr. Tim Hull.
Yeah, so Transportation Commission, we've discussed a bit about, the HB 4738. We've got like a proposed resolution we're gonna consider. And we've had a couple presentations. We had some presentation about like the climate emergency and steps that the city's taking like last week or last month, and worked on our annual report, and we're setting up, and the White Cane thing, and we're also, the other big thing is this next meeting, we're electing a new chair and vice chair. And actually, on that topic, I'm kind of curious, do we elect our chair and vice chair for 2 years? Because I noticed that we don't have one up for this year, and
They're 2-year terms, if I'm correct. Yep.
yes, okay, that's what I was thinking, because I'm like, I didn't remember because. But anyway, that's what I have to say. We're going to continue that discussion on the crosswalk law at the upcoming meeting.
All right. And thank you, Tim, for the work that you're doing with the Transportation Commission, as well as keeping us updated on that. I do appreciate that. Now, Kathleen, of course, could not be with us today, but so we can skip over that. I believe, Corey, you did send along those notes, though, from
Said it was in
the last meeting?
Yes, 2 minutes.
Yep.
from the last,
Yep. So, yeah, Corey had sent along those notes from her last meeting. Next, we have announcements. Are there any announcements that we'd like to make at this time? Okay.
I attended a luncheon last week about dementia-friendly communities. It was a topic that was interesting to me, and it turns out that, I guess, Dexter and Celine have actually gone through a process of having their city staff educated around sensitivity to people who are living with dementia. Anyway, I just want to throw that out there. It was kind of a really interesting presentation, and it got me thinking about what the city of Ann Arbor might be able to do. So,
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting to me as well, because I have some family members that are affected by that, and unfortunately, it's a growing issue. So
yeah, well, what was remarkable to me was the presenter talked about how long his wife had lived with dementia without significant support. 10 years they were living in their home and, out and about, and it was not a condition that somebody is diagnosed with, and then all of a sudden they're receiving such strong support. There's quite a journey of coping with small challenges and getting slightly bigger challenges, but really the support that can exist in the community was exciting to hear about.
Yeah, I think it's interesting to hear about, and it's definitely something that it should be on our radar, definitely. So glad you were able to attend that and glad it was informative. Anybody else have any announcements for the commission at this time? No? Okay. All right. Any new business we'd like to discuss at this time? No? All right. Well, with that, I will adjourn the meeting for today. I've got a lot of homework to do, so expect some emails from me. And thank you to the City of Ann Arbor, to the Ann Arbor Community Television Network, and all the commissioners for joining us, and we'll see you next month.